Hey everyone, I know what you're thinking. Why, Tony, you're starting to grow a beard and you've got a haircut. This is true. I guess you could say I'm doing No Shave November and also decided to get a haircut because my hair was all. But anyway, 2025 marks an important year. It's the 30th anniversary of Toy Story, and I'm excited to do a commentary for this film. So, anyway, you know the drill about commentary companions, about where to stream Toy Story. Of course, you can also watch Toy Story on DVD or a video cassette if you're old fashioned like me. But anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy my commentary of Toy Story in honor of its 30th anniversary. To infinity and beyond. Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and today, in honor of the film's 30th anniversary, I will be looking at Toy Story, the first ever CG animated movie, released on this day on November 22nd, 1995. 30 years ago, and Toy Story is prominent for being the first ever feature-length animated movie to be fully CGI. Of course, for those who don't know what CGI is, it's short for computer graphic images, 3D animation, and was also the first official movie for Pixar Animation Studios, the main producers of the film. Now, Pixar goes way back to 1986, and so the company's been around for nearly 40 years. And, well, I have such a soft spot for Toy Story. I mean, like a lot of people my age, I grew up watching the first film. So this holds a special place in a lot of millennials' hearts, and Gen Z, and so on and so forth. Of course, CG goes way back before Pixar even. I mean, the first feature film to use CGI as well as the competition of the live-action film with CGI was Vertigo, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which used abstract computer graphics by John Whitney in the opening credits of the film. The first feature film to make use of CGI with live action in the storyline of the film was the 1973 film Westworld. The first feature film to present a fully CGI character was the 1985 film Young Sherlock Holmes, which showcased a fully animated stained glass knight character. And of course, Toy Story was my first introduction to singer Randy Newman. Now, I know a lot of people say that Randy Newman's first collaboration with Disney was for The Princess and the Frog, but I think Toy Story counts, as does James and the Giant Peach. I mean, Toy Story is prominent for being the first collaboration between Randy Newman and Pixar. I guess it's debatable. But yeah, if it weren't for Toy Story, we wouldn't have modern CG animated movies. And this was a big gamble for Pixar because they were on the verge of bankruptcy if the film didn't succeed. So this was a big gamble for Pixar, Steve Jobs, and John Lasseter. And I'm probably going to have a lot of fun explaining pretty much the making of this film, and it was very much a nightmare. Now, before Pixar did movies, they got their start doing animated shorts and also commercials, as they started out as an animation studio for Lucasfilm. That it was meant to be like an animation studio for Lucasfilm, but unfortunately, after the financial failure of Howard the Duck, and with George Lucas going through his first divorce, he had to sell some property in order to pretty much have the funds to help with the divorce. So he ended up selling Pixar Animation Studios to Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, who thankfully brought along John Lasseter and other former employees there, thus laying the groundwork for Pixar Animation Studios. Pixar did a lot of was pretty much known for doing whimsical shorts, working with whatever material they worked with. In 1989, Pixar created Tin Toy, which was pretty much the prototype version for Toy Story. It was about a little tin toy named Tinny, who was pretty much a one-man band kind of toy who pretty much tries to amuse a creepy-looking baby. And it's also Tin Toy is also notable for being the first time Pixar ever won an Oscar for Best Original Short. And but yeah, it laid the groundwork for Toy Story. As after that, the Walt Disney Company was interested in collaborating with Pixar on a movie in which Pixar would produce a television special based around Tin Toy, and Disney would distribute it. However, eventually, this idea for a Tin Toy Christmas special evolved into Toy Story. I mean, the original concept of the Tin Toy Christmas special would have had Tin Toy at odds with a smart alecky ventriloquist doll that looked like a cowboy. Eventually, it evolved into Toy Story. In fact, aspects of it can be featured. In fact, what I like is that the books that Andy owns are all references to Pixar's early shorts, like Tin Toy and The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. That's actually a nice little attention to detail. And for the most part, 30 years later, I think the CG to Toy Story still holds up to this day. But yeah, Toy Story was very much my first introduction to actors like Tom Hanks and Annie Wilkes. And they very much play the characters very well, as Woody and Bo Peep very well. Also, fun fact, before Bo Peep was created, originally Barbie was going to be Woody's love interest, but Mattel wouldn't give Pixar permission to use Barbie, so they ended up creating Bo Peep in her place. But yeah, this film was how I became familiar with actors like Don Rickles, John Ratzenberg, and also Wallace Shawn. And Toy Story was very much John Ratzenberger's first first time doing voice acting and first collaboration with Pixar. And he'd end up being a regular for Pixar, providing his voice for many of their films, except for, I think, most of the 2020 movies, which is a real shame. I mean, you're practically breaking tradition by not featuring John Ratzenberger in your Pixar films. Pixar? Seriously. But yeah, Mr. Spell, that's an obscure one. Now, the animation team perfected the movement of the toy soldiers by nailing a pair of sneakers to a sheet of wood and trying to walk around with them on. It's actually quite a good attention to detail. Ah, yes. Now, early scripts for the film featured a Barbie doll in a prominent role as Woody's love interest. The original ending sequence in which Buzz and Woody chased the moving truck was scripted to have Barbie drive her Corvette off the truck and rescue Woody and Buzz from Sid's dog, a la Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. Mattel, which owns Barbie, declined on the basis that they thought the film would be a failure and that they didn't want Barbie to have a defined personality, preferring to let children imagine Barbie's personality traits on their own. Thus, Barbie was dropped from the script, and her character was reworked into that of Bo Peep. When the film proved a huge success, Mattel did allow Barbie to appear in Toy Story 2. But yeah, Woody was originally conceived as a ventriloquist doll. The idea of ventriloquist dummies would come in Toy Story 4, where the film's main antagonist, Gabby Gabby, has ventriloquist dolls for henchmen. Here's an interesting detail. Before the reveal of the toys being sentient, Woody can be seen reacting when Andy spins them both on a recliner chair by slightly closing his eyes. Also, Andy's full name is Andrew Davis. But also, yeah, I did not realize that R. Lee Ermey, who's best known for playing foul-mouthed drill sergeants, provided his voice for many of the toy soldiers. It kind of makes sense to have him voice the soldiers. It's pretty funny. And I really like how R. Lee Ermey has a sense of humor. I also didn't know that the voice actress for Andy's mom is, voiced Roseanne's sister, and was Billy Loomis's mother in Scream 2. Also, Toy Story is the only film to take place at Andy's old house as they move to their new house at the end. It's very prominent. Forest Fantasy. Also, yeah, Toy Story is the reason I'm familiar with Mr. Potato Head and the late Don Rickles. Now, of course, Don Rickles has pretty much been around since the 50s doing insult comedy. I didn't know he was famous for that, but yeah, Don Rickles is the prototype for insult comedy. One of my favorite quotes of his is, "If I were to insult people and actually mean it, it wouldn't be funny." What I think is interesting is that when the sergeant looks through his binoculars to spy on guests while he and the other army men investigate the birthday party, you'll notice that Andy's friends are actually the same character model of Andy, just with different skin tones, clothes, and accessories. Of course, given that the CG was very limited back in the 90s, it's understandable why they all look the same. It's forgivable. Now, some 3D effects were too complex or even impossible to calculate at the time of this film. Subtle tricks are used to avoid them. For example, explosions, thus the viewer doesn't see Combat Carl's demise. Hair dynamics, so Andy, Sid, and Molly all have short hair, while Andy's mother's hair is always tied back in a simple to model ponytail. And flying water droplets, thus the viewer doesn't see any liquid when Woody dunks his burning head into a bowl of cereal. Now, Tom Hanks recorded his dialogue during breaks of Sleepless in Seattle and A League of Their Own. He didn't want to record his dialogue during the breaks of Philadelphia or Forrest Gump because he felt he shouldn't do comedic roles in between minutes of playing serious roles. Now, what attracted to Tom Hanks to the role of Woody was the fact that during his childhood, he would always wonder if his toys were alive and moved around when nobody was in his room. Now, what attracted to Tim Allen to the role of Buzz Lightyear was the fact that before him, they offered the role to his biggest influence, Chevy Chase, who turned it down. Yeah, so I just learned right now that comedian Chevy Chase was considered for the role of Buzz Lightyear. Not only was... well, I'll get to Buzz Lightyear in a minute. But... I should also point out that Toy Story was also how I became familiar with Wallace Shawn, who has the most distinct and recognizable voice ever. I just love hearing his voice. Andy's Room Welcome. Sounds like a mouthful. And I remember seeing this clip being played in so many documentaries to kind of define what it was like seeing a CG animated film for the first time, and the scene still holds up, Now, before Tim Allen was cast as Buzz Lightyear, I guess Chevy Chase, Jim Carrey, and Billy Crystal were all considered for the role of Buzz Lightyear. Billy Crystal was originally offered the chance to voice Buzz Lightyear, but he declined it. I mean, Pixar wanted Billy Crystal for Buzz, and also, how much did he want it? Did Pixar want him for it? They actually used a clip from When Harry Met Sally, the clip where Harry, played by Billy Crystal, rants about the Roy Rogers coffee table. It was pretty funny, but still, they didn't. Still, Billy Crystal still turned it down, declining it. After seeing the finished film, he said the decision was the biggest mistake of his career. Upon learning this, John Lasseter telephoned Billy's house to offer him the role of Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc. Billy's wife answered the telephone and said, "John Lasseter wants to speak to you." Billy took the telephone from his wife and said, "Yes." And, I like Billy Crystal. I like no, I don't like Chevy Chase. I'm sorry, and I like Jim Carrey, but I can't imagine either of them voicing. I can't imagine either of them voicing Buzz Lightyear. I think Tim Allen was perfect for the role of Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, it was my first introduction to Buzz Lightyear. Was very much my first introduction to Tim Allen, and he really does do so well with the role. In fact, pretending to be a spaceman, convinced that he's an actual spaceman and not a toy. In fact, it was actually co-writer Joss Whedon, best known for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Avengers, who thought of the idea of Buzz being convinced he wasn't a toy. So there's that contribution, and I think that's a good contribution. I like that. I didn't even know that Joss Whedon was involved with Toy Story until I was in middle school. I saw his name on the credits, Joss Whedon, creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That Joss Whedon? Whoa! Of course, by today's standards, I don't really condone any of what Joss Whedon has done over the years and his lack of professionalism. I mean, he could do better as a person. I mean, his downfall was his own doing. But I'm still willing to appreciate films like Toy Story and The Avengers. But of course, it's a case of separating art from the artist. It's pretty funny that years later, Tim Allen would play another spaceman. That spaceman for Galaxy Quest. Never give up, never surrender. But I remember being so enamored by Woody and Buzz that I wanted those toys for Christmas as a kid. Yeah, I'm very much a fan. I remember this bickering being used in the trailer to Toy Story, which was featured as a companion trailer for a video to The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. At least I think, I'm not sure. Now, when Woody is sitting on the bed talking with Slinky, there is a drawing of him on the wall behind them. This is actually an early sketch of the Woody character. Now, Woody and Buzz are inspired by John Lasseter's own childhood toys. He based Woody on his own pull-string Casper doll, and once he grew out of Casper, he moved on to G.I. Joe, a flashy toy at the time of his childhood. Also, if you remember Wheezy the Penguin, he was originally going to be in the film but was cut during the first draft of the script. He was later brought back in Toy Story 2. Glad to know that the film that the character wasn't put to waste. Also, yeah, I mean, Slinky the dog from Toy Story was my first introduction to the late Jim Varney, best known for playing Ernest. Now, John Lasseter always wanted Tom Hanks to play the character of Woody. Lasseter claimed that Hanks had the ability to take emotions and make them appealing, even if the character is down and out and despicable. Early test footage using Hanks' voice from Turner and Hooch convinced Hanks to sign on to the film. And of course, I totally recommend Turner and Hooch. It's hilarious. Now, Hasbro denied Pixar Animation Studios' use of G.I. Joe. I'll explain later. I guess I can explain the concept of the Tin Toy Toy Story prototype movie. The story would have involved Tinny, who had been on a family vacation with his owners and accidentally being left behind at a highway rest stop and later found by a junk man and escapes from him by joining up with an old sarcastic ventriloquist dummy to try and get back to his family, but they eventually make it to a preschool where they will never get lost and outgrown. However, the writers soon realized that Tinny was too old-fashioned to be a child's favorite toy. So he was replaced with a miniature toy astronaut initially named Lunar Larry and later Tempest from Morph. Eventually, he became taller and was renamed Buzz Lightyear. The ventriloquist dummy, meanwhile, also changed and evolved, becoming less mean-spirited and eventually turning into a cowboy ragdoll named Woody. Elements of the original story would later be used for Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4. The character of Andy is named for Andries Andy Van Dam, a Brown University professor in computer science and animation pioneer who taught many of the makers of this film. Now, Jeffrey Katzenberg, who used to work for Disney, as you know, often gave notes that he wanted more edge. Pixar presented an early draft of the film to Disney on November 19th, 1993. The result was disastrous. The film was deemed unwatchable, and John Lasseter recalls simply hanging his head in shame. It presented Woody as a sarcastic jerk who was constantly insulting the other toys. I mean, which doesn't really work for a character like Woody, but it does work for a DreamWorks character like Shrek the Ogre. Now, as I was saying, Katzenberg took Walt Disney Feature Animation president Peter Schneider in the hall after the screening and asked him why it was bad. Schneider responded that it wasn't theirs anymore. Disney, and I think when he says it wasn't theirs, I think he means it wasn't Pixar's anymore. Disney planned to shut down and take over the production at their studio, but the crew asked them to give them just 2 more weeks to make it better. The story team then spent a week on a new script to make Woody a more likable character instead of the sarcastic jerk he had been. I mean, Roy Disney hated this cynical version of Toy Story. I mean, yeah, this Woody seems like a petty and jealous jerk, but I guess he's not like the sarcastic, unlikable jerk in the early version. Yes. Now, Tim Allen has said in many interviews that Pixar originally wanted Jim Carrey to voice Buzz Lightyear and Paul Newman to voice Woody, but they couldn't due to the low budget they were given for the film. Those casting choices were meant to represent how New Hollywood was taking over Old Hollywood, Newman representing Old Hollywood, and Carrey representing New Hollywood. Paul Newman would later go on to voice Doc Hudson in Cars, which was his last role before passing away in 2008. Speak of the devil. Now, Sid Phillips is said to be inspired by a former Pixar employee of the same name, of the same last name, who was known to disassemble toys and use the parts to build bizarre creations. Now, originally, Combat Carl was going to be a G.I. Joe toy. However, Hasbro denied Pixar the use of the name G.I. Joe when it was informed that a G.I. Joe doll was going to be blown up by Sid. The doomed action figure was thus referred to as Combat Carl. Combat Carl would later become a speaking character in the TV special Toy Story of Terror. But some people think that Sid isn't really a villain. I mean, I get it. I mean, he's just a kid with a creative edge. Trying to, just acting out, you know? At least my sister thinks so, and, she's not wrong. Sorry, I'm not laughing at what I just said. I'm just laughing because Buzz is trying to use his laser, and it's pretty much a light bulb, you dunce. Now, Toy Story was also the first animated film nominated for the Oscar for Best Screenplay, Original or Adapted. It's a pretty big deal. Also, I really like virtual realty. That's a pretty good play on words. I think there's a Pizza Planet at either Disneyland or Disney World. I'll have to look it up later. I'm just, like I said, I'm scrolling through IMDb facts, which is what I do whenever I do. I either look at facts on IMDb or a notebook on whatever I write. Don't count on it. That's funny. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time Joss Whedon did a psychic 8-ball joke, I'd have 2 nickels, because I'm thinking of that time when and on an episode of Angel, when Lorne uses an 8-ball to indicate, has Lorne been a bad girl? Which the 8-ball says, oh, definitely. And then when they get attacked, it's like, you'll have to come back to me later. Also, as of 2014, Toy Story is the first and only animated film to receive a Special Achievement Academy Award. It was given to Lasseter for the development and inspired application of techniques that have made possible the first feature-length computer-animated film. More than 50 years earlier, Walt Disney received an honorary Oscar for working on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Toy Story required 800,000 machine hours and 114,240 animation frames in total. Buzz Wilhelm. I wonder if the Wilhelm scream is used for whenever he falls. Also, fun fact. Randy Newman wrote the film's signature tune, You've Got a Friend in Me, in just one day. Is Pizza Planet at Disneyland? Yes, there is a version of Pizza Planet at Disneyland, located in Tomorrowland. It is also called Alien Pizza Planet and is a quick service restaurant that serves pizza, pasta, and salads. It was formerly known as Red Rocket's Pizza Port and was rethemed to its current name in 2018. But yeah, Alien Pizza Planet. Sounds like a fun gimmick. I wonder if it's also available at the Walt Disney World. Ah, there was a Pizza Planet at Walt Disney World, but unfortunately, it closed in 2016 and was replaced by Pizzerizo. While there is an Alien Pizza Planet at Disneyland Park in California, the original location in Florida is gone, and Pizzerizo is now a Muppets-themed restaurant located where Pizza Planet used to be. Yeah. But, so yeah, there is a Pizza Planet, and appropriately enough, in California. Used to be in Florida, but not anymore. Now, currently, there were 124 animators that worked on the first Toy Story. I'll look it up again. Yes, around 120. Some say there were 27 animators. IMDb claims that there were 54 animators. Another source says there were 33 animators, but the total staff is around 120 people for 1995. Now, the film required 800,000 machine hours and 114,240 animation frames in total. Oh, you're yucked. But we're not on my planet, are we? I'm still wondering, how did nobody notice this? Oh, somebody better call the exorcist. Do toys have nerves? And there's the license plate is, of course, A113 as a reference to the room that many of the CalArts students attended. And, of course, Dynaco. First use of Dynaco. I didn't even realize that Dynaco was being referenced in the first Cars movie. But it is a nice Easter egg. Yep, kill Buzz later. Oh, shoot. Wait, wouldn't his hand get crushed? Or stuck, at least? Well, I guess not. Also, Zurg is an evil alternate timeline version of me. You are a child's plaything! Yeah, the sad, strange little man quote is Tim Allen's favorite line. When the Pizza Planet delivery boy enters the Dynaco gas station, he asks for directions to West Cutting Boulevard. West Cutting Boulevard is the street where Pixar Animation Studios was located in Richmond, California at the time. Pixar moved its entire operation to Emeryville, California in 2000. Ah, yes. Now, the books in Andy's bedroom are have the following titles: Tin Toy, Knick Knack, Red's Dream, and Luxo Jr., which are all names of animated short films that Pixar made in the 1980s. This I know. I've seen them. In fact, I remember when Luxo Jr. was featured as a companion short for the video cassette release of Toy Story 2. I wish they would have kept that for the DVD of Toy Story 2. I'd have to look around. Should have listened to Bugs. Should have listened to Buzz. Why did I say Bugs? Bugs Lightyear. To infinity and beyond, Doc. Airlock pressurized. I actually would love to go to Pizza Planet. I think Woody's seeing stars. Supernova Burger. What do you suppose Pizza Planet's Supernova Burger tastes like? I love that the box moves when Buzz talks. But yeah, this interior of Pizza Planet does look very nice. Now, originally, Pizza Planet was originally a pizza putt, a combination pizzeria / mini golf course. Sounds like a fun parody of Pizza Hut. Imagine if it was Pizza Putt. Would it be no one out pizzas the putt? AstroTurf. Ready to launch. Oh. Oh, what I think of every time I deal with shit like this. Yeah, I believe one of the aliens is voiced by voice actress E.G. Daily, best known for voicing Tommy Pickles on Rugrats and Buttercup on Powerpuff Girls. The claw. Also, I love that the Wacky Alien is also a spoofing reference to the chestburster from Alien. I still think it's funny that these toys have pretty much created a religion on the crane claw. Sorry, I'm just admiring the animation. This makes me think of the times I tried getting toys from a crane claw, but always lost. I was so mad whenever I lost. Lucky. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Of course, Toy Story is not Disney's first non-traditionally animated film. The Nightmare Before Christmas gets that honor of being the first Disney's first non-traditionally animated movie. The top of Sid's backpack reads, Julie McBarfel has cooties, a reference to camera manager Julie M. McDonald, who lobbied people to put her name in the film. Juju's House of Food is another reference to her. Originally, after Woody accidentally opened Buzz's helmet and Buzz started suffocating, Woody was supposed to look around concerned. However, John Lasseter saw some early animation of the scene where Buzz was choking. Woody just stood there, and decided it would be funnier if Woody just stood there, bored. I mean, some people might say that Sid is mad but creative. And maybe he is. Also, Hannah looks like a nervous wreck. I feel like a few years from now, when she's a teenager, she might go through a goth phase. Hannah looks like she would go through a goth phase, and my sister jokingly agreed with me. She is definitely, we do agree she's a nervous wreck. How did he manage to get those toy heads onto the lava lamp? But yeah, whether it's 120 animators or 27 animators or 54, I mean, it has less animators than The Lion King. The Lion King was made with 800 employees. Now, the toy shark wearing Woody's hat proclaims, Look, I'm Woody! Howdy, howdy, howdy! This references a cowboy-eating vulture in one of Gary Larson's The Far Side daily comic strips from the early 1980s. Hey, everyone, look at me! I'm a cowboy! Howdy, howdy, howdy! Now, the theme of Andy favoring Buzz, who is a spaceman, over Woody, who's a cowboy, is reminiscent of a cultural phenomenon of the 1950s where kids wanted to be cowboys. With the launch of Sputnik and the subsequent space race between the United States and the Soviet Union, more kids wanted to grow up to be astronauts and abandon their cowboy toys. This phenomenon is addressed in more depth in the sequel, Toy Story 2. I mean, very true. Stinky Pete even says to Woody, 2 words, Sputnik. Thought it was Spotnik, but it's Sputnik. Like I said, initially Steve Jobs had real reservations about the film, to the point where he was considering selling off Pixar. However, as production was underway, he got more and more excited about the way it was shaping up, firmly believing that it would be a milestone in motion picture history. And you know what? He was right. Now, Disney pushed hard for the film to be a musical, like most animated features at the time, but John Lasseter was against the idea, so he compromised with the background narration songs by Randy Newman. It's a good compromise, you know? The early audience test screenings of the movie was disguised as an early screening of Operation Dumbo Drop, as to disguise the screening from the public. Audience members were only told the screening was actually for Toy Story when they were handed non-disclosure agreements in line at the theater. Now, Buzz Lightyear's colors are purple, green, and white. This was because John Lasseter's favorite color is green, his wife's favorite color is purple, and the character was based on the white suits astronauts used to wear in the Apollo missions. The only toy that wasn't in production when the film was released was Slinky Dog. Also, I like that the carpet is based on the Overlook Hotel carpet from The Shining. That's a fun detail. Uh-oh. And this is how Buzz finds out he's a toy. My Buzz action figure didn't have that. Or the Judo Chop feature. Not a flying toy. I also like how they feature Al's Toyborn, which would eventually foreshadow the character in the sequel. And yeah, now Buzz goes through the 5 stages of grief: denial, fear, bargaining, anger, and depression. And it takes him a while to really get to acceptance. But it is a great example of the 5 stages of grief, if that makes sense. I know that this song is supposed to be tragic, but I think it's kind of funny. It's not as tragic as When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2. There, I said it. Oh no! And that flying lesson cost him an arm. John Lasseter knew he had a hit on his hands when he heard adult sobs coming from the preview audience when Buzz lies apparently broken. Just below the back, and as the computer game reveals, also the front of Buzz's waistband is the Disney registration trademark. John Lasseter reflected on the impact on the movie, saying, "Actually, wait, I'll get to it. This it's so funny. He pretends to be Hannah and Sid's mom, and she fell for it. And then he acts drunk." This is my favorite scene. He could not get through this. That's also my favorite. Years of academy training wasted. Yeah, Mr. Potato Head is not a good sport. Now, John Lasseter reflected on the impact on the movie, saying, "Yes, we worry about what the critics say. Yes, we worry about what the opening box office is going to be. Yes, we worry about what the final box office is going to be. But really, the whole point why we do what we do is to entertain our audiences. The greatest joy I get as a filmmaker is to slip into an audience for one of our movies anonymously and watch people watch our film. Because people are 100% honest when they're watching a movie. And to see the joy on the people's faces, to see people really get into our films, to me is the greatest reward I could possibly get." Apparently, Joss Whedon reportedly created the character Rex the Dinosaur. I'm not 100% sure if this is true. I guess I'd have to ask around. Now, the presence of Bo Peep in Toy Story is a reference to the fairy tale The Shepherdess and the Sweep by Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. His story was also about toys in a children's room coming to life when no one is looking. Now, Buzz Lightyear's name was inspired by astronaut Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, and the term light year, which means the amount of distance a beam of light travels in 1 year. Now, Buzz's facial features are loosely based on John Lasseter, most notably his eyebrows, cheekbones, and the dimple in his chin. Lasseter demonstrated this by sketching a rough self-portrait on the UK breakfast show, The Big Breakfast, and then adding the spacesuit helmet to transform himself into Buzz. Wait, are toys able to throw up? During the production of the movie, Steve Jobs made a private call to producer Ralph Guggenheim one night, trying to convince him to use Bob Dylan as the writer and performer of the soundtrack. Oh. Attracting animators to work on Toy Story proved to be remarkably easy. The opportunity to work on the world's first computer animated feature film proved to be a big lure. I can imagine the doll spider leg is like, "Oh, thank you." How would those toys be considered cannibals? And then they're like, well, excuse me. I think my favorite detail of Sid getting this rocket is that the firework company is illegal. A play on the word illegal, which is that's very clever. I like that little detail. I love wordplay like this, like virtual realty and illegal. That's funny. Oh, Woody's pulling the real Spider-Man there. I just need to nitpick about the plastered logos at the beginning of Toy Story. I mean, it features. Instead it features the modern, well, the Walt Disney Pictures logo that was introduced in the second Pirates of the Caribbean film, instead of the 3D looking castle that Pixar itself made, which I really liked. I hate that they stopped using it for that. It's a real shame. In April of 2008, Toy Story made its debut as a live action musical on Disney Cruise Line's The Disney Wonder. The musical contains 7 songs, 6 of which are original, and Randy Newman's You've Got a Friend in Me. The design that Pixar used for Mr. Potato Head is an altered version of the 1980s and 90s design. For instance, in the real world, the toy Mr. Potato Head's eyes are attached to each other with only one hole on the plastic potato put them in. In the films, Mr. Potato Head's eyes are separate and have one hole for each eye on the plastic body to place them in. This is true for the shoes as well. That's why the Toy Story collection version has connected eyes, in which the eye connection is a half inaccuracy. The collectors were not pleased. However, we see more accurate versions in the near future, as Hasbro announced that they may make revisions to their design. Oh man. Buzz is in a depressive funk. And I think this was Tim Allen's first chance to really show off a more dramatic side. An early possible title for Toy Story was You Are a Toy. Also, Toy Story is Pixar's only film to not have a co-director until The Incredibles, released 9 years later, although it is John Lasseter's only directorial effort to not have a co-director. In 1996, a Toy Story-inspired See 'n Say was released. This version was the same 1989 model seen in the film. However, it was adapted to narrate scenes from the movie by Woody. In addition, the Arrow now features Woody's picture. Even though she belongs to Molly, Bo Peep has been considered to be one of Andy's toys, being played with by Andy and even being labeled as Andy's Toys on a bonus feature on the 2005 Toy Story 1 and 2 DVDs. Also, yeah, how much did I love Toy Story? I was willing to put my name onto the footprints of my Woody and Buzz figures. Like, now on Woody's right boot has the name Andy. I put my name on his the left side of his boot. I even tried to put my name on the Buzz Lightyear toy, but unfortunately, the black marker didn't stick. Real shame. Yeah, Eggman. Hold on, scrolling up, scroll up. Also, yeah, the toolbox is a reference to the same tool chest that Tim Taylor uses in Home Improvement. Oh yeah, the moving company Eggman Movers is named after art director Ralph Eccleston. The license plate of the truck MLY 1K9, meaning Molly 1K9, is a reference to Pixar's Resident Sheepdog. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Shut that door. When Woody and Buzz are running around behind the video game consoles at Pizza Planet, one of the video games that can be seen is an extremely sped up version of Pong, a video game by Atari that was released in 1972. I'm familiar with Pong and Atari. Also, originally, Slinky Dog was intended to be one of Andy's more unpopular toys, and the least played with Woody effectively being the only reason Slinky was not hauled off to Goodwill, with Woody pointing this out when demanding that Slinky force the other toys off the bed after throwing Buzz out the window. This backstory, however, was cut out after the scene in question nearly resulted in Toy Story being shut down on Black Friday. Black Friday was the result of, the more cynical version of Toy Story being played and Disney threatening to cut the cord on Toy Story. But yeah, not only were Jim Carrey, Chevy Chase, and Billy Crystal considered for the role of Buzz Lightyear, but so was Bill Murray. I like Bill Murray, but maybe I liked Bill Murray, but I just can't imagine him as Buzz Lightyear. Dynaco is presumed to be a parody of the real-life Sinclair Oil Corporation fueling stations, with the green Apatosaurus logos being the same. Also, Toy Story is Pixar's only film to not be accompanied by a short film until Toy Story 4, released 24 years later, although it is Pixar's only film like this before the Walt Disney Company purchased/acquired the studio in 2006. What I also find is interesting is Andy's last birthday present. The rapper has Chuckles the Clown, who would later appear in Toy Story 3. Apparently, Mel Gibson was also considered for the role of Buzz Lightyear. Maybe he turned it down in favor of voicing John Smith for John Smith in Pocahontas. I just can't imagine him as Buzz. Now, before Wallace Shawn was cast as Rex the dinosaur, Rick Moranis and Daniel Stern were considered to voice the character. But yeah, Sid's name was inspired by punk rocker Sid Vicious. Buzz and Woody called him Sid Vicious in a deleted scene on the Blu-ray disc. Trust me. Also, yeah, this is also my favorite scene from the film. Several months before the release, there were secret screenings held to tweak the film as it was being worked on. Audiences were told they were going to see a screening of Operation Dumbo Drop, and only when they were in the theater were they told it was actually an experimental animated film called Toy Story. Wait a minute, I think I already mentioned that. John Cleese was originally considered to voice Slinky as well. That would have been weird. Now, John Lasseter tried to pitch a full computer-animated feature film to Disney as early as 1982 after seeing Tron for the first time. Slinky Dog was originally a Slinky Caterpillar. Also, whenever a character blinks, the eyes blink one at a time, not both together. Now, Rex is shown to be left-handed when meeting Buzz in Toy Story. He shakes Buzz's left hand. Also, Toy Story is Pixar's only film to not include outtakes until Finding Nemo, released 8 years later, although it is the studio's only film without outtakes to not be released in the 21st century. Also, Robin Williams was considered to voice Woody. I probably would have been an interesting straight man role for him. Oof, imagine if they both got run over. Yeah, Scud does not like what he sees. Sid's dog is named Scud, which is a reference to missiles that carried biological warfare substances used by Saddam Hussein when he opened an attack on United States allies during the Persian Gulf War of 1991. Don't try this at home. If I recall, yes, in the Black Friday reel, Ham was depicted as being a bipedal pig, presumably a plush toy instead of a piggy bank. In addition, he was given a voice that was more pig-like, similar to Porky Pig, albeit slightly deeper. One of the car's license plate is HTT 1195, which references the company High Tech Tunes, which produced the film. The 1195 references the fact that the film was released in November of 1995. Obviously. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Oh man. Thank goodness the dog did not get run over. That would have been horrible to see. Oof. Interestingly enough, Slinky is also is Slinky is made from string and wood, a spring and wood, but unlike most toy versions. Nice. That could have been fatal. Now, Lisa Kudrow, best known for being on Friends, was considered for the role of Bo Peep. Uh-oh. Who knows if Molly will ever remember that? Both Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, by coincidence, each played a space character in a 1995 film. While Tim Allen was Buzz Lightyear in this film, Tom Hanks starred as Jim Lovell in Apollo 13. Oh. Oh. Man, that's bad timing. On a different note, not in the film itself, but in an original draft for the film, when Barbie saves Woody and Buzz a la Sarah Connor, Woody remarks at one point that he wished he was anatomically correct. Oh, wow. Bruce Willis was also considered for the role of Buzz Lightyear. I don't know if I can imagine Bruce Willis as Buzz. Serves you right, Mr. Potato Head. For various international releases, Buzz Lightyear's packaging was rewritten in the language of the country of release: German for Germany, Swedish for Sweden, French for France, Japanese for Japan. To Infinity and Beyond is a nod to the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. In 2001, once the spaceship Discovery reaches its destination, the title appears: Jupiter and Beyond Infinity. Though not the main character, Mr. Potato Head, not counting the Wanted poster, is famously the first character to appear in both the Toy Story series and Pixar films. Andy is the first character to be heard speaking in the Pixar films, as he was throwing his voice for Mr. Potato Head as a villain. Clint Eastwood was also considered to voice Woody. Once again, can't imagine Eastwood as Woody. Frankincense is myrrh. Yep. Woody and Buzz Lightyear share their first names with classic cartoon characters Woody Woodpecker and his nemesis Buzz Buzzard. And Joe Pesci was considered for the voice of Mr. Potato Head. I don't know if I can imagine Joe as Mr. Potato Head. Also, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Elijah Wood were considered for the voice of Andy because, remember, they were child actors first. What I also think is interesting is that Tim Allen and Tom Hanks have also shared the role of Santa Claus. Also, Toy Story is the first computer-animated film to use Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers, and Cartoon Track's Volume 1 sound effects. Yeah. But yeah, that was Toy Story. 30 years later, the film still holds up. I mean, innovative animation at the time, great storytelling, great voice acting, sharp wit. It pretty much laid the groundwork for Pixar Animation Studios and modern CG animated films, and was a childhood staple for a lot of people my age, and often millennials born in the 80s who grew up in the 90s. And yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be modern CG animated films without the success of Toy Story. And it pretty much also helped really transition Disney when 2D animation was starting to become obscure. I mean, there's a part of me that kind of resents CG animation for overshadowing traditional 2D animation, but I can't find it in my heart to hate Toy Story under any circumstances, or any of the Pixar films, because they were a staple part of my childhood. And, you know, I'm really glad to be talking about Toy Story on the film's 30th anniversary. So yeah, happy 30th anniversary to Toy Story. I hope you all enjoyed my commentary to this film. Honestly, I needed to talk about something lighthearted after the crap I went through in October. And don't worry, I have plenty of plans for other films, including non-MCU films. I plan on talking about X-Men: The Last Stand. If only that film was as good as Toy Story, but I kind of have a bit of a sentimental soft spot for that film as well. But anyway, thanks for listening to Commentary Companions. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day. To infinity and beyond.